All right, so we are recording, and I've got Terry's here with me in the office. So she's going to help me keep track of the waiting room and anything in the chat as we go. And this is going to be pretty quick, considering the latest version of the handbook is 200 and what I count, Terry, 222 pages. So given that the document's that long, this is going to be pretty quick. I don't want to be here more than an hour, and I'm sure you don't either. But I also want to give it ample time to answer your questions and things like that. So if you want to make sure that you're muted, unless you need to ask me a question or whatnot, that would be great. If you have questions, like I said, feel free to unmute and ask or drop them in the chat, and we will try to get those answered. So I don't think we're going to go into great detail on lots of things simply because the document's so long, but I'm going to try to hit the highlights and offer you a couple of things here so that you at least have this guiding document for the 4-H program. So that's what we're here today to do. So I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully you all can see that. We're going to go through what is right now a draft version of the Owen County 4-H program and project handbook. And I say it's a draft version because Terry and I have been working on this diligently. But because it's such a monster of a document, there's a lot to do here. So we have most of the content in place. But there's a lot of formatting, there's a lot of details, there's still several typos and formatting problems that we have to iron out. So we won't be ready to print hard copies for just a minute, right? What our goal is to have hard copies available by the end of next week. So by Friday, I think that's the last day before spring break, the 10th. That's our goal right now for hard copies. And in the meantime, we're going to send out a link to a PDF of this draft version for you so that you at least have something to go on. I know it's important. I wanted to have this out in January, and we've just been hit so hard with short staffing problems, illnesses in our families, illnesses in ourselves. And really, it's just Terry and I. So getting this done has been a challenge. Given all that, let's dig into it. So what I'm showing you on the screen right now is our draft version of our table of contents. So the page numbers are not accurate right now. We're trying to break it down into a way that makes sense. The previous document was kind of a mess in this area. Things were just kind of thrown together just so we would have something. So we have spent a lot of time trying to reorganize it so that it makes sense. On top of that, as you'll see when we go through a lot of this program and policy stuff, we took directly from the state program so that we are congruent with what the state expects from us. So as we go through here, basically this front page, just kind of title pages, it gives our contacts here in the office, lots of information about the program, some history about 4-H, our philosophy, that sort of thing. What I want to point out here is what we're all about and what should be the underlying spirit of everything that we do in 4-H, and that's positive youth development, right? That's what we're about. We want to make sure that we are taking our young people and giving them a positive experience so that they learn to engage with their communities and all those things around them so that they can become leaders as they grow. So that piece really is what sort of feeds what we do. All right, so there, again, lots of information, motto, colors. Take a look, if you will, when you get your handbook at this piece about the emblem. This is important. It may seem silly, but this stuff's important. So if you are doing club t-shirts, for instance, you really need to be aware of proper and improper uses of the 4-H emblem. So make sure you're doing that. And then as we go, right, so we've got a page that has club information. Club leaders, if I know I have some club leaders on here, make sure we have your accurate contact information. And then I'd also like to make sure we have your accurate dates, times, places, right, of your club meetings so that we can drop those in here. We do have some of you, right, but we didn't have enough of you to add that in right yet. And I'd like to make another column here, you know, like willing workers, right? Willing workers meets on Sundays at the Patricksburg Community Center. So I want to add that in there. Okay, so we continue on. Like I said, a lot of this stuff at the front was dropped in from the state website. So a lot of this is directly wording from the state. If there's anything that's a little different, I'm going to try to point out to you, but most of this is there. I see we've got some others. So we're just going to scroll through here. So another important thing I want to talk about, there are competitive events, you all know this, in 4-H. I don't like to focus so much on the competition element simply because I'm more about the journey, right? Of what this young person's learning as we kind of get there. But that is a valuable piece of what we do, offering that chance to compete, whether that be with 4-H exhibits, in livestock shows, in contests and competitions. So this talks a little bit about guidelines for competitive type events in 4-H. All right. This is what a lot of people are here for, the animal stuff. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes from our livestock committee, both representatives from 4-H Council and Fair Board, working to update rules and regulations for our animal shows, right? So this first part of the handbook is sort of that general policy and procedure part. So this is where we have general guidelines for animal exhibits. So I have my own notes here in front of me. Let me get to the right page for myself before I start here. So that's what section 7.2 is talking about. Mostly, I want to start off by saying it's important that the 4-H'er owns their exhibit. So if it's an animal exhibit, that 4-H'er needs to own that exhibit. The caveat there is our lease program, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So if you read through some of these, right, we've got, this talks about ownership, right, for breeding animals, and for dairy cattle, it's a little different. The breeding animals can be owned in a family corporation or partnership. Dairy cattle can be owned with an outside person. At the state level, if you look at number 3, at the state level, they only recognize leased animals for horse and pony, llama, and dairy cattle, llama and alpaca. So they do not allow you to show at the state fair a leased goat, for instance. However, our council, and I agree, felt it was important at the Owen County level to make sure that we offer opportunities for young people who may not otherwise have them to show other livestock as well. So at the Owen County level only, we're going to allow leasing those other animals. So that's what number 3 is all about, okay? The important piece of this to know, right? If you, in the example of lease a goat, if you are showing a leased goat in the Owen County Fair, number 1, you cannot put that animal in the livestock auction. And number 2, you cannot show that animal as your own at the state fair. Make sense? If anybody has questions on that, let me know. But that's one of the biggest changes this year in this handbook. So that's reflected right there in 7.2, number 3. All right. Sorry, trying to keep myself on track here. We want to make sure if you look at number, so number 5, we're talking a little bit here about animal identification. So all your market animals and commercial animals must be individually identified and verified, right? So we're talking about tag days, and we want to make sure that all of our animals have a chance to be seen at tag day. And we've got our tag days coming up. Actually, Sunday, right, is beef tag day. So if any of you are in that project, you'll be getting your animals out there to get tagged this weekend. And Cassie and Adam were in to pick up their tags yesterday. So they are ready to go, right? But we want to make sure that we put eyes on as many animals as possible that are going to be showing at our fair. So we want to make sure, for instance, all goats come to tag day. And in the past, we've said, well, if you have certain tattooed animals, that may not be necessary, but we would like to see all goats here for tag day. Same for sheep. All right. Another thing that we haven't really dealt with too much here, we haven't really had any animal product in the auction of late, right? I don't think since I've been here, I came in 2019, that we've had any auction, maybe. I can't think of one. But it is permissible, for instance, to put, if the person wins dairy, right? If they wanted to auction, if they chose to auction a gallon of milk, right? However, that's considered premium only, and that would take that animal out of contention to show. So it's just like selling that animal. So they wouldn't be able to go on. So I think that's why maybe not a lot of people do it, right? Because you've put that animal through an auction, even if only by their animal product. All right, so we want to make sure that everybody reads these carefully. You're going to get a copy at your tag days. You're going to get a copy of these general guidelines and a copy of your species specific rules at your tag day. And we're going to have you sign for those, that you've got those. And that is to make sure that everyone's on this same page about animal exhibits and the rules that go along with them. Okay. Everybody got that? Make sense? Yes. I'm trying to look over here, see if there's any chat activity or not. So hanging in there with me. So again, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to exhibit, at the same time maintaining that biosecurity that's needed for animals, as well as following all the rules and regulations of BOA and Indiana 4-H for animal exhibits. Okay. We want to talk next about yes. So number 9, carefully read all the guidelines. Like I said, your species specific guidelines. And we want to make sure that we understand that sometimes we need to do some treatments on our animals for their safety or whatnot. But we want to make sure that anything that can be done before you bring that animal to fair is done, right? We don't want a whole lot going on in the barn. If you need to do something, you need to apply something or administer something to your animal, talk to your barn superintendent first, please. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page about that. We don't want any questions. We don't want other families wondering what's going on and rumors getting started and all of that kind of thing. We want to make sure that you are protected, as well as the animal is protected, and the 4-Hers protected, and the program's protected, right? So it's for everybody's best interest. Please, please, please don't be doing anything to your animal outside of, general care, obviously, without talking to the superintendent. Okay. All right. So talking about non-animal exhibits for a second. So there's a whole big part. So most of this manual, most of this handbook is specific project guidelines, right? So most of these are covered under non-animal exhibits. So we want to make sure that 4-Hers understand some things. So there's some general things there under 7.3, and you'll see that section that's highlighted there. That's because we got to fix the formatting of this and make sure we've got it numbered correctly for the structure here. But basically, this section is talking about those non-animal exhibits. And we are going to do Sign Up Genius again to enter exhibits. However, it's going to be for live judging or open judging appointments, right? So like last year, when you bring your exhibit to the exhibit hall, so let's say you have a photography project. You're going to go in to Sign Up Genius and sign up for a time on one of the 2 days to come in and talk with that judge. So that will help it go a little smoother from the days when we just said come sometime between 4 and 7, right? Because everybody ultimately would show up at 6:45 and lines would build. So we're going to sort of take the best of both worlds and continue to use Sign Up Genius for appointments, right? But this year we're doing the open judging, right? If you remember the last 2 years, we've done closed judging where you brought your exhibit in, and then the judges came in the next day and judged them. So this year, we're kind of stepping it back a little bit into that open judging, which I like. I'm kind of excited about it, actually. So that makes me happy. Important thing about those exhibit hall entries, they must be completed after the entry deadline of the previous fair, okay? So I'm addressing this because I've noticed some things and I want to make sure you understand it needs to be new work, right? Don't just rework an old poster. You can use some of the same elements and the decorative elements, but it needs to be a different topic with different knowledge that you've researched for that project, right? Don't be bringing me the same topic 4 years in a row. Right? It needs to be new that you've learned since the last fair. All right. Any questions? Okay, so I've covered. So in both animal and non-animal, I want to make this clear too. We have to have rules to keep some structure to make sure it just doesn't get wildly out of control, right? But the bottom line for me is I want to make it as easy as possible for people to exhibit in the Owen County Fair, right? We will work with you. Just let us know, right? Just let us know. Don't be pulling surprises on us. Let us know, and we will try to work with you on things. So make sure to keep that open line of communication with your barn superintendent, with me, with folks on council, with our office, so that we can kind of help you understand what is or isn't permissible, what we can or cannot do to help you be able to exhibit. All right. So the next section here is just about program awards. So that happens at the end of the year. You can look at that on your own. I want to just touch on ribbons, right? I love when I see a young person who is so excited when they walk in and first see how they did on a project and their face just lights up. I want to make sure that all 4-Hers and all parents understand a blue ribbon is a good thing, right? That means excellent. It means that you met all or almost all of the guidelines, right? I don't want anybody to be disappointed because they didn't get a purple or a pink ribbon, right? I want everyone to understand this is about doing the best you can at your level, at your ability level, and not so much judging yourself against everyone else, right? So that's my little piece right there. Don't be disappointed by a blue ribbon because it's a good thing. It's an exciting thing. All right, the next section in the book would be about the grievance policy. I'm not going to spend too much time on this other than to say we do have a grievance policy if there's an issue that you want to address, but it is not a mechanism for complaints against individual people, whether they be 4-H members, their families, volunteers, or judges, right? This is about decisions made in, for, programming and participation, right? So you can read through this that talks about the procedure if anyone has a grievance. What I would hope is that if somebody has an issue that they would come to me or come to the 4-H Council president with a question or a concern, and we can help you work through that. And we've done that many times, right? Fair is a stressful time and stuff happens and stuff comes up and people get emotional and you're hot and you're tired and, you don't want to be there 15 hours a day sometimes, and things can get a little scratchy. Just ask us and work with us, and we will help try to find a resolution to whatever the issue is. There's a little section here about 4-H events and activities. I'm not going to spend any time on that because I'll do something different later addressing that. I get really excited about some of those things, but I don't want to take the time to do it right now. Section 2. So the next major section in the handbook is all about the exhibit hall projects or the non-animal projects, right? It starts out with talk about mini projects. So any of you that are mini parents, understand, and I think we've had a lot of questions on this because it's different than it used to be in the past. When you sign up your mini 4-H'er, that's all you're doing. You're signing them up as a mini 4-H'er. You will not choose projects for them. That will come when fair entry time comes. So about, what do we say, Terry, about 2 weeks before fair will be our fair entry deadline.
Yes, 2 weeks before.
Okay. So we will, at that point, when you go in your fair entry, that's when you'll choose, okay, my mini really is interested in collections. They have a matchbook car collection and they want to bring that to the fair. Okay, then there's mini collection and hobbies you can sign up for in fair entry, right? So you'll just tell us about what you want there. One last thing about minis. So like I said, I'm a big, all about the journey kind of person, right? So for mini projects, pretty much anything goes. If your mini 4-H'ers interested in something and it's not specifically outlined here in these few categories, there is the create your own project there you go. Perfect for you. And be creative. Tell them to be creative. They can do a traditional color a poster if they want, but if they want to make me something out of Play-Doh, make something out of Play-Doh, right? If they want to build something out of popsicle sticks, there you go. Do that. Be creative. So the rest of this for regular 4-H, right, is broken down alphabetically. Right? We tried to be alphabetical. I've noticed a couple of things we're going to have to switch around, starting with aerospace. And what we tried to do, and we'll just start with aerospace or talk about it, aerospace, because that's first here. What we've tried to do is start out each project with its award structure so that each one, there's not any question about how many grand champions are going to be or how many champions there are going to be in this particular area, right? So we've tried to put that structure at the top of each project area. So you can see here in aerospace, there's going to be 1 overall grand champion, 1 overall reserve grand champion, and then there will be 1 champion per level. Okay. Then it goes on to talk about the different levels and exhibit guidelines. And pretty much if it's a state project, we just plucked it off the state website and put it in here. If it's a county project, we've had rules in the past and we may have adjusted or tweaked them just a little. But aerospace is a state project. So pretty much this is exactly what you would find if you went to the state website. Okay. Same here. So this is one that's a little more complicated, right? Animal and vet science education, because it's got different state fair entries, right? We're allowed 3 cat entries, 3 dog entries, 3 llama, 3 poultry, 3 rabbit, and 3 vet science per county, 1 per level, right? So it is possible to, not be the grand, if you're the grand champion, you're probably going to end up going to state fair in this category. But it's possible, right? If intermediate cats had the grand champion and the reserve grand champion, well, only 1 per level can go, right? So that reserve grand champion may not go to state fair, right? We would pick a different one. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. So you can go through and see, again, this one is one that was plucked directly from the state website. Arts and crafts, a little more complicated, right? Because some of these are county only arts and crafts and some are state. So I've highlighted this here because I want to make sure that Terry and I look at it again and make this award structure a little more understandable. Because there will be 1 overall grand champion, 1 overall reserve grand champion for all the arts and crafts except construction craft, fine arts, model craft, and needlecraft are pulled out and they each have their own grand champion. Okay, so, but if you are ceramics, gift wrapping, gingerbread, scrapbook, all of that's going to be lumped under 1 umbrella for 1 grand champion, 1 reserve grand champion. And that is the same as it's been for the last 2 years, I think. But it is different than before that. So if you've been around a minute, there was that recent change and that confused some people for a while. So that I'll tell you pretty much the arts and crafts category is the reason why I said, let's put the award structure in each project so people have it and know what to expect. Okay, so then we've got all of these listed here. Occasionally, if you need something special for a project, we'll drop it in here, like this gift wrapping information card. We'll drop it in there for you. Other times it's available online or we can get you a copy of it. So craft cards is available they're available online and you would need that for any of these crafts. Okay, I'm gonna buzz through most of these, right? Because cake decorating, that's another one, right? Cake and cupcake changed. That award structure changed a few years ago and confused some people, right? Cake and cupcake, they are both decorating skills. So they're grouped together for a grand champion and a reserve grand champion. However, cake goes to state, cupcake doesn't. So that, again, that confused people, but we do send people to state for cake decorating. All right. There's another one. What did I say, Terry? Oh, so hobbies kind of engulfed some other things too. We collapsed some other projects into hobbies that were standalone before. Music was one that stood alone before. Reading was one that stood alone before. Religion was one that stood alone before. And we've put that all together in my hobbies. Those are county level projects. They're not state fair projects. And we were getting maybe 1 exhibit in each of those, and it didn't warrant a grand champion for each of those. So we collapsed them into 1 umbrella. Communications, there's an outline here for that. Something I learned today. I don't know, I must have been, I missed something last year. So there's no longer poultry and rabbit illustrated talk or poultry and rabbits. What was it called? Action demo specific. So they're just collapsed into, if you want to do a demonstration about a chicken, it would just be in demonstrations. Okay. And that changed apparently in 2022. I asked the question today and got that clarified. So I would love to see more people in the communications projects. So I'm hoping I'd like to kind of get out there and do a little promotion of some of those because I think these are important skills and I want I want to see more kids in that. Oh, and creative writing recently. So last year was the first year creative writing was available to go to state. And for me, as a creative person, that was super exciting. All right. Moving through robotics. I still am looking for, I think I have a volunteer. So hopefully we'll be able to do some robotics this year. Yay, yay, rah. Electric is one that had a lot of changes about 2 years ago. So make sure if you are in the electric project to go through and read here. Again, the whole purpose being to allow a little more flexibility in what the exhibit can be in electric. So there are a lot more choices now. You have a lot more freedom to be creative in what you want to do with that electric project. So we keep rolling here. Floriculture can be a kind of a complicated one, so make sure that you're reading through all the things. Foods rules changed at the state level 2 years ago, I think. It might have just been last year. So if you're a foods person, make sure you read through. A lot of that had to do with food safety, right? So read through what's here if you're interested in food. And we don't have a lot of people that do preserved foods. Hint, hint. I'd love to see more people doing some preserved foods. Forestry, gardening, unnecessarily complicated. So read through exactly what all of these exhibits should look like on garden. Oh, and a little tip on garden. So your fair entry deadline, like we said, is going to be about 2 weeks before fair. So anybody that gardens knows that maybe you're not sure 2 weeks ahead what's going to be ready at the right time. Go ahead and put in fair entry and exhibits into fair entry for anything that you think you might possibly want to bring garden wise. And then the day before or the day of entry, you can decide what you want to bring from what you've put in the computer. Okay. So if you've put in, I'm going to bring tomatoes, I'm going to bring corn, I'm going to bring snap peas, I'm going to bring green beans, whatever. And then you get to the day before and your tomatoes are just ick. You don't have to bring them, right? But you're ready to bring them if your tomatoes look amazing. I like amazing tomatoes. Bring me some amazing tomatoes. Okay, so that again, garden is a little bit, it's a lot. So make sure you read through it. The other one that's a lot, genealogy. Ooh, that one's a lot. Read through. If there are questions on genealogy, let me know, because I know at the state fair last year, we had issue with some things being judged that we didn't think were accurately judged. So if you have any questions at all before fair, let me know and we will try to get you the answer you need. Because it's complicated. It's pretty deep to try to do genealogy. And I don't want that to keep kids from doing this project. So let's just ask the question. We'll try to find out the answer together. Okay. We're scooting on through a lot of these here. So junior leaders, if you are a junior leader, go ahead and sign up for junior leaders like you would for a project, right? I'd love to get more lawn and garden tractor, more zero turn kids. That project is growing actually, and I'd love to see it grow even more. We have in the county south of us, so in Greene County, some of the one of the largest lawn and garden clubs in the state. Malia's club down there is amazing. So it would be great to kind of grow it here so that we had more people going down to our area contest to be competitive. So I encourage that. Photography, always one of our top projects. And it, again, for the grand champion, we look at photography and outdoor photography together, but each level and area has their own champion, right? And outdoor photography is not a state project. Sewing, another one. I would love to see more in sewing. And if anybody's interested in sewing and interested and has talent, so if any of you are adults that are talented seamstresses or sewers, right? I'd love to talk to you about maybe doing a workshop for some youth on how to do that. Oh, I don't know where that came from. All right. Fashion review. So that's a fun one. Oh, somebody's scribbling on my screen. That looks fun. All right, shooting sports. So make sure if you're interested in shooting sports that you connect with the club leaders for that. If you have any questions, call me here or call Terry here and we'll connect you with that, because it's important that you get into the safety meeting so that you're able to go to their shooting events. You have to do the safety meeting before you'll be allowed to take part in any of the shooting events. And usually that safety meeting is like the first thing they do. So if you're interested, connect with us and we will get with you on that. And the exciting thing about shooting sports is they've gone back to having a state event. That was not so for quite some time. And so there will be a state shooting sports event this year, which is pretty cool. Fishing, weather, wildlife, woodworking. Oh, and we're going to add one. It's not in here yet. I don't have the rules all put together, but welding is going to be a new project opportunity for people. So we're still working on that one. Okay, animals and livestock. So we are going to spend some time on this one just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So we already talked about those general things at the beginning. So let's take a look, right? So we've got the list here of your ID requirements. Okay, so we want to make sure, especially if you're going to state fair, that your animal's properly ID'd. And when you come to tag day, make sure to let us know if you intend to take that animal to state fair. My suggestion, if you are not sure, go ahead and tag it, ID it properly for state fair so that you keep your options open, right? You don't want to close the door on that if you think you might take an animal to state fair. Okay. Big change this year. This is the biggest change in the livestock area this year, and that is the Quality Livestock Care Program. Okay. We used to require, and when I say used to, it was like yesterday, seriously, YQCA. Okay. You can still take YQCA to meet this requirement if you choose. We just aren't going to be offering it live in person. Okay. If you need YQCA for other shows. So if you're a person that shows on a regional or national circuit and you need YQCA, just take the online YQCA and you're covered for us. You don't need to take our livestock care program. So hopefully that makes sense. We are no longer offering YQCA in Indiana 4-H. We don't offer live in-person classes. No county is going to be offering them. Okay. However, you can still take it online if you need it for a different reason, and it will count for us. So in short, we recognize YQCA, we're just not offering it ourselves, if that makes any sense. In place of it, Indiana 4-H created our own program called Indiana 4-H Quality Livestock Care. Honestly, it's very similar, but it's much more adjustable to local needs. Okay, so it was developed for that purpose because we felt like, and when I say we, I'm not talking me specifically, but Indiana 4-H felt like they needed something that was a little more tailored to Indiana 4-Hers. And so a committee was formed and they created this program. This is what I will be teaching in person this year. So the dates went out. They're out there, and I can tell you March 20th, I believe. Hold on, I'm looking to make sure. March 20th at the poultry meeting, I'm going to be teaching this program. So if you are a poultry club member and you're in attendance that night, you'll have that taken care of. And then I'll be teaching it the next night here in the office, March 21st. And I also have an April date. I think that is, let me look. April 6th, that's a Thursday night. I'll be teaching it here in the office. And then I have a May date. And that will be May 1st here in the office. I didn't schedule any in June. However, I won't promise I'll do one in June, but it's possible. I want all the kind of, when we get to that point in May, if I still have a significant number that need one, I may try to fit another one in June. Okay, but my advice is to get that course taken care of at one of the 4 I already have scheduled in March, April, or May. All right, and it's $3. It's $3 for that program, and you'll just pay for that when you come. And call Terry. She's taken names already to RSVP for that. Okay, general livestock guidelines. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about this. And I'm going to move something so I can see better. I'm going to move all that over there. So when we're talking about general livestock guidelines, I want to go through these a little more carefully. And we're talking about, like here, the exhibitor is going to be responsible for their own project. So those animals can't be maintained at somebody else's facility or a professional fitters or anything like that, except horses. We want you to be keeping a record of all the medications, tranquilizers, any of that kind of stuff. And in this handbook, we will have an animal husbandry form that we ask that you keep up to date. And that will be in the back as an appendix. It's not there yet in the current form, but that's on our list to make sure we add that in. So we want to make sure that you're listing what product you use, the dosages, number of days, dates you treated, withdrawal period. Okay, that's important with regard especially to market animals. We don't want animals going to market that have not completed that withdrawal period of any product yet. You've got to give the reason, right? For that on that form. Market animals shouldn't contain any identifiable foreign substance. Okay, so drugs, steroids, chemicals, any of that kind of stuff. That shouldn't be happening. Please, please, please don't be doing any of that kind of thing. As I mentioned at the top of this program tonight, we don't want you administering anything to a 4-H animal exhibit at the fair unless it's been approved by your superintendent. So again, keep in communication with that superintendent. And I'll be getting, I don't think, Terry, we didn't have any significant changes in superintendents, did we? I don't think so. But I'll be getting that out soon as well. And we may put that in, we might want to put that in as I tried not to put things that won't age well in the handbook, and we'll just keep those as a separate like annual supplement to the handbook. But I'll get that published a little bit closer to fair. All right. The number 7, talking about drenching, please, please, please talk to the superintendent first if you feel like you need that to protect the health of your animal. Grooming, number 8, most should be done by the exhibitor. Okay. that the exhibitor is allowed to have immediate family members give assistance. There is going to be, as an attachment, the grooming assistance program form that the state recognizes, that the state fair recognizes. Some species, and you will read those in the individual species rules, right? Some species are going to be okay with you using that, and some would prefer you not. So try to keep it to just the 4-H member and possibly 4-H member family, helping with grooming of your animal. On show days, right? It gets busy, it gets hectic. So try to keep things under control in the barn during show days. Talk to your superintendent if you have questions. Only the exhibitor, ring help, and judge are allowed in the show area. I would hope that I wouldn't even have to talk about abuse of animals, but it's not going to be tolerated at all. So excessive abuse includes burning, stabbing, gouging, any of that kind of stuff. That just should not ever be happening, and we're not going to tolerate that. Tampering or misrepresentation of breeding or age, that we would consider that fraud. So please avoid doing that. No artificial anything, right? So don't surgically alter your animal or put stuff on your animal, that kind of thing. And it will tell you what is acceptable in your individual species rules. All right. Oh, this section about auction, Terry, I think this was supposed to come out of here because it's supposed to go behind. I think maybe we have it in there twice. We'll come back to that because I think it's later. So here's a for instance, right, of beef rules. What we did, we had the committee. So there was a livestock oversight committee that met, and the superintendents went over the rules that we had on file. In some cases, we had 2 or 3 versions of rules, which is really not acceptable because we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So we sent those out, asked for revisions, and we got those revisions back. I've kind of gone through and tidied them up for things like grammar and, duplicating things unnecessarily. And then what we'll do, Terry and I, when we get all the content nailed down and the structure formatted correctly, go back and put in the proper pages to refer you back to the different general guidelines, right? So like, here's the beef project. We're going to refer you to section 7.2 page, once we know what page that actually is going to shake out to be, and the guidelines in section Roman numeral 3. All right. Again, you will get a copy. If you're a beef person, you're going to get a copy of this on Sunday. So these beef rules, Terry and I, these are the first things we're going to be working on to make sure are in place 100%, because that's our first tag day coming up Sunday. You're going to get a copy of these rules and the general livestock rules, and you're going to sign that you received them. All right, so you can make sure there's still some general information repeated. It talks about grooming again, animal ownership again, and then some specific to the different things. So beef steer, heifer classes. And then here's about the beef feeder calf show. So the first feeder calf show we had last year. So this will be the second one that we have. So here are some rules for that. This is not technically a 4-H show. This is a fair board show, but it is for 4-Hers. So we included it, just kind of a lot like our market beef show, right? And round robin, same thing. So we want to make sure that everybody understands this is an opportunity. So like I said, I talked to Cassie and Adam yesterday, and they felt that it was important to allow a feeder calf show to encourage younger 4-Hers to get into this project. So this allows them to show an animal that's of size that they're going to be better able to handle, which is a big concern. And then also just to give them some experience with this and see if this is something they really want to get into. So this is going to be, the calf must be but born between January 1st and May 15th of the current year. So these are babies, right? These are going to be very young animals. And at this time, she's not asking for these animals to have to come to tag day, right? But it's possible in the future that we might require tagging, okay? And I would encourage you, as your 4-H educator, I would encourage you to tag them, identify them with your own premise tag if you have those, right? So if you have your own tags that you use, I would go ahead and do that. Or we can sell you a tag to tag yourself with a county tag if you'd like. Because I'm more comfortable with having them identified, but I'm okay with not if that's what you choose. And that's what the superintendents who know way more about it than I do felt like it was appropriate. So I'm going with what they're saying. Okay. So you can read through that. And those animals in the feeder class under 700 pounds, right? So these are smaller animals. Okay. Cat. I don't think there were any big changes in cats. We just had some things we had to make sure of, so we highlighted them. Dairy, I don't think any big changes in dairy, no big changes in dog, right? But again, we're just trying to get everything together, formatted so that it's easier to read, easier to understand. It doesn't repeat 4 or 5 times the same thing, and it makes more sense. Dairy goat. I want to say there were a couple of changes here, but I don't think they were major. So read through carefully. Again, we're going to refer you back to some of the general guidelines here.
Dairy goats was mainly making sure all the breeds were included.
Okay, so I knew there was, yes, because we added Nigerian dwarf. There we go. Was there anything else specific to dairy goat that was a big change? I don't remember seeing any.
The only other thing, and I'm not familiar with goats, so I apologize. Sam's showing them for the first time this year, is there was a class that that no longer applied, something with milking, like they didn't have to be milked within 24 hours or something that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Was the only other change.
All right. So we'll double check on that. I know. Oh, this one, we added this a couple years ago, I think, but make sure your tattoos are legible. When you bring that animal in, we have to be able to read the tattoo, and we will not allow you to come in. We can't read the tattoo. We have to DQ your animal. We're not going to allow you to then go back home, re-tattoo, and bring that animal back. All right. Number 7 right here. Once disqualified due to an incorrect, missing, or illegible tattoo, animals can't be re-tattooed and rechecked. Okay. So we need to make sure that's in place. And I would like to see those goats at tag day so that we can check those and give you time to fix any problems with the tattoo before you bring that in to check-in day at the fair. All right. And then we've changed the name of the goat show. We're now Meat and Market. It used to be called the Boar Show, but there are other breeds of meat goats included. So we didn't feel like calling it the Boar Show was really appropriate when there were other meat goat breeds. But the bottom line is your goats have to have a minimum weight of 40 pounds, right? Which that's still a fairly small goat. So you need to make sure they're at least 40 pounds. It talks about the classes here. All right. And again, best practice, bring any of these goats in for tag day. Okay. I would suggest making sure that you bring them, even if we've seen them before, especially if we've never seen them before, you need to get them in here. But right now, the way the rules read, all goats are supposed to come to tag day. If you have any questions about that, that's a good question for your superintendent. Lots of questions and controversy about where should pygmy goats go, right? So pygmy goats will show in their own separate show, and as they always have, but will do showmanship with meat, right? So we will have made sure this year that that meat goat judge is the same judge who will see them in their show. That was an issue last year, and that was a mistake. That shouldn't have happened, but the dairy goat judge was, judging pygmies, and I think, and yeah, that wasn't right. So we've tried to rectify that, but we will have one judge for dairy goat, one judge for meat and pig meat. All right, horse and pony. Do I have any horse and pony people on here? Are there any big changes in horse and pony? I didn't see any as I was going through these. Okay, I think the biggest thing for horse and pony is we've tried to move the shows back into Fair Week. And I've had some questions about that. Some people liked it when it was earlier, some people didn't. But really the reason we moved it away from Fair Week had to do with judge availability at first. And so it stayed there for I think it was just 2 years, maybe 3, where it stayed a couple of weeks ahead of, but we've brought it back into Fair Week this year where it should be. And I think we're gonna switch what we had planned for English and Western so that there's not as much overlap with the market beef show. Because that was the concern. But I think we've got that figured out. But anyway, read through here and you've got some great horse and pony leaders, and they will be happy to help you understand all of these rules and guidelines. Okay.
The biggest change with horse and pony is that there has to be an actual horse and pony leader present for there to be any riding.
Okay.
It can no longer be a parent.
Okay. So I knew I saw something on that. So what I did, and I don't think I told you this, Erin. So it had the names of the current horse and pony leaders, but I changed it to so that this book doesn't outdate itself if any of those leaders change. And we will make sure that when those we put out the leaders and the superintendents list that they're on there, and that'll be what you go by, the current. I'm trying to see where that is at any writing meeting. You must have one
Brittany
of the
and I talked about that after the fact. So we
Yeah.
needed to change that. I just never got around to it.
Yeah, you must have one of the approved horse and pony adult volunteers present in order to ride your horse. Okay, so that I think that's how I worded it. You must have one of that should there's too many ones in there. You must have one of the approved horse and pony volunteers present in order to ride your horse. And then as a supplement, when I put out the superintendent and club leader list, we'll have those names on that. That will come out every year. But we don't want to have to reprint handbooks every year. All right, poultry. So poultry is kind of a long one as well. Read through it. It was simplified. So I was really happy. I think Emmy was the one maybe that went through and helped kind of condense it a little bit so it made more sense. Because before
She was amazing.
It was pretty difficult to go through and read it before, but she did a great job cutting it down and making it make sense and still have all the information that was needed in there. So make sure you read through that carefully. And we have a very active poultry club. So anyone who wants to show poultry, hopefully you've had a chance to go to some poultry club meetings, get to know your poultry club leaders, because they are an excellent source of information and they will give you so much help on what you need to know to show. Rabbit, another one that can get a little confusing because there's so many different breeds and that sort of thing. But I think it's been well condensed so that it makes more sense. And any of the publications that are referenced, we can help you find those and try to get you copies of those, right? So the for instance, what's it called? I get my letters mixed up. I want to find it. The American Rabbit Breed Association, ARBA, right? So their guidelines are a good resource for people. So that would be another thing. Oh, I know what on meat classes. So I've got to verify the weights, right? But we think this is correct. 3.5 pounds, not to exceed 5.5 pounds for meat rabbits. Okay. And then rabbit ambassador, there is a manual for that, but I didn't put it in the handbook. So if you need a rabbit ambassador manual, we're happy to get you a copy of that as well. And I'm really excited because we've had a lot of activity with rabbit ambassadors in the last year and a half. A lot's been going on and kids are getting into that quite a bit. Sheep, Aaron, there was not a ton of change in the sheep rules. Were there? I don't remember seeing a ton.
There were not. The only thing we did is the main changes were lining up with grooming for certain breeds with
Okay.
state fair. That way they wouldn't be disqualified at state fair. I think that was really the only change. And those were corridels and some things that we don't really show.
Gotcha. So all of that grooming information is right here. She's lined that out really well for you. So take a look here. Repeated some of the general stuff. So market lambs have to be at least 55 pounds. Talks about the ownership stuff. Age, they've got to be born after September 1st. And then your classes are down here. So tell me, I had to laugh. So I think this is the one you were telling me about the one time. So the lead class, is that the one where they can dress up? And we've never had anybody do it.
Yeah, and actually the last person that did it was Andy or Andrea, my oldest cousin, is the last person that ever did it. So there's a basic make it with wool costume class for sheep that
I love it.
In.
When
so
I
think that we're gonna try and get some of the kids to do it.
I think that would be fun. When I first was reading through that, I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, that's what Aaron was telling me about. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That sounds fun. And then wool. So if you want to enter wool, you certainly can. And then your showmanship classes are here. All right, small animals. There were a lot of changes. I mean, this is a small project, and the previous rules were like half a page. So I kind of made sure to clarify quite a few things. The biggest thing here, because it wasn't addressed in the rules, but we always tried to make sure that we addressed this for the show, but it wasn't actually written anywhere. Is that this project is for small animals that are like pets. So hamsters, gerbils, guinea pigs, that sort of thing. Rabbits, poultry, dogs, and cats have their own show, so they don't show here, except for mini 4-H'ers. So mini 4-H'ers can show a dog or a cat, for instance. And their competition is called Little Critters, right? So if you're a mini and you want to show in the Little Critters part of this small animal show, you can show a cat or a dog, but you have to have the vaccination form with you that day. That's the only caveat to that, because those are animals we expect to be vaccinated. We are going to hold to that in this small animal show as well. So I added that, put that in bold down here. And the other thing I added, I'm trying to see if I added something else and get to the. Okay, no age limit on your pet, but we want you to have it by May 15th. So it needs to be born or hatched by May 15th, just like the other animals. Okay, you can choose one of these 4 categories here. And then the big one I added at the end, venomous animals are prohibited. So we don't want any venomous snakes or venomous creatures of any kind, because we don't want any danger of anything like that happening. Oh, and ferrets. Ferrets require a health certificate too, which was already there. So if you have any questions about small animal, let me know, because that's sort of mine that I like. Swine has a lot going on. Read through it. And definitely talk to your superintendents if you have any questions about what's here, right? They want all swine to report to tag day. So all swine projects need to come to tag day. There's the information on grooming again, ownership, age, right? So I want to clarify this, Aaron. I don't know if you saw this in the revised copy that I was sent. It just said market hogs and gilts born in December. I added through March of the current year because the classes are December, January, February, March. So it read, when you read that original statement, it sounded like you could only have hogs born in December, but that is not true, I know. So does this look more accurate?
There was some confusion, and it took us a while to get the an actual date. So they're like sheep. So sheep, as long as they're born after September, that's all that matters.
Okay. So I added just, yeah.
But it's totally fine to put March on there because or whatever you put, because I guess the problem with the hogs is getting them big enough.
Yeah.
During the time frame.
Well,
and
I'll double check. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'll double check with Deb, but when it down here later, right, it has your classes as December, January, February, March, and the purebred gilt. So that's where I got March. But I could change it to say born after December 1, and that would basically say the same thing. So I'll double check on that before I do the.
All animals have to go to tag day. It doesn't. All the sheep have to be there too.
Okay. Everybody goes to tag day. Everybody
has to come to tag day now.
Not rabbits, right?
Oh, I don't even know about rabbits.
Not rabbits, but
no,
chickens now. Chickens, we started the chicken verification day. Which
said no, not rabbits.
Rabbits do have to be entered into. Rabbits now have to be entered into 4-H online.
Right.
Yeah, rabbits go into 4-H online, but they don't have to come to tag day. Poultry, right? Poultry verification day was set, but then Bill told me he wanted to have it later. So I've not heard back. Are there any poultry people on here that have updated information on a poultry verification day? Okay. I will try to touch base with the poultry leaders and see where we're standing with that. All right. Okay, then just read through that carefully, please. Again, this set of rules is going to be the one set we have. That was the biggest issue I think a lot of us had with our current rules, is that there were different versions floating around in different places. So this version, once I get it finalized, will be what we use. So for now, I'm going to make available and I'll send it out. I'm going to have Terry send it out as a PDF link in a blast email tomorrow. This is a draft version because we've still got a lot of primarily structural formatting kinds of things to do here. But the content for the most part is good and you can move forward with. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, because like I said, this is a 222-page document that we have tried to cobble together over a number of years, right? There was nothing like this when I walked in the door 4 years ago. And we've been trying to put this together ever since. It's a bear to work with. So if you see something that you're unsure about, that you question, that you just strikes you as odd, let me know and we will take a look at it. Here's the livestock auction. Like I said, we had it copied on the front, but I want it here at the back. So that livestock auction information is here. And then we'll have, this is all highlighted in the appendix because I don't know what else is going in this appendix. We're going to try to make this resource rich for people so that you just have a bunch of links that you can go to see examples of various different things. And that'll be at the end. Then we will also append several documents that we have. So the volunteer application will be here, that animal lease agreement I talked about, and this is the updated one that is county specific, because if you remember earlier when I said the state fair will not accept leased goats, they won't accept leased sheep, any of that kind of thing, but we want to make it available here so that more kids have an opportunity to learn about and have the experience of showing an animal. So that's here. Look through that. Record of achievement is going to be back here. Now, we no longer require you to turn in the green book. It was just a logistical nightmare for the office to try to deal with these. So this is a honor system kind of deal, right? We encourage every 4-H'er to keep your annual record of achievement. We have green books available. You can come in and get one if you don't have one, and we can give you copies of these achievement records. I encourage you to keep record of as much of your work each year as possible. When this is going to come into play is scholarship time. So when you're a 10th, 11th, and 12th grader, you can apply for Indiana state level 4-H scholarships, and they will want this information. When you are a senior, our local 4-H council gives 4-H scholarships. They will want to see this information. So it is in your best interest to keep your own records. We will no longer be checking them. Okay, it's up to you. And if you want to benefit from that, those scholarship opportunities when you get into high school, then you need to make sure that you're keeping track of them. So we still have them available. Here's the grievance form back here. Here's the grooming assistance form that's back here. All of this stuff is going to be appended in this handbook. You guys, it's 7:44. I've been here over an hour. I didn't want to be here. It's hard to keep people's attention for over an hour. So I'm sure you're bored with my voice. I was unable to go deep into a lot of things, but hopefully I hit the highlights you were most interested in. What other questions do those of you on the call have right now that I can possibly try to answer? And I'll give you a minute, and I'm looking at the chat. If anybody has chat, or just unmute if you want to. Okay. If you want a hard copy of this handbook, once we have all these revisions ready, make sure to let us know. A lot of people have been commenting on the post I made on social media yesterday. That's a fine place to let us know. I will go back and look and make sure we have a copy made for you. You can call in. Terry's keeping a list, right? You can message me, you can email us, whatever, to let us know that you would like a hard copy. We're offering one hard copy per family for no cost. And then if you want additional copies, it's going to be $7. That's a lot of copying, and it's going to really eat into our copier budget. But we felt like it was really important to offer this free to 4-H families. You need this information. It'll be available free also online. Like I said, I'm going to have Terry send out the draft version in a email blast tomorrow so that everybody has it. Just knowing that will be a draft. And then once we have a final, we'll send that out as well. Our goal is to have hard copies and that final format ready to go by a week from Friday, which is the 10th, day right before spring break. And again, I apologize that it's taken us that long, but it has been a bear to work with, and we have had a lot of stuff interfering with our ability to focus on this. So I appreciate you guys being patient. I hope that this has been helpful. If you have questions, I'm going to hang around for a minute. But really that's all I have. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Where did I stop recording? Yes.